Hello everyone, this is part 8 of What If Naruto Was the Child of the Moon in Percy Jackson, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The demigod's jaws hung open. They watched as the dead walked up to the monster with no fear at all. The attendant on duty lines parted on either side of him. The EZ death spirits walked right between his front paws and under his belly, which they could do without even crouching. As they looked higher up his body, they saw a huge. He's a Rottweiler, Percy managed. Naruto shook himself out of shock. What did you expect, a Chihuahua? Percy shook his head. I was expecting a black mastiff, but that's not the point. Why can we see him better? I think. Annabeth moistened her lips. I'm afraid it's because we're getting closer to being dead. Cerberus's head craned towards the demigods. He sniffed the air and growled. Meat. Naruto and Grover perked up, understanding what the three-headed dog said. It can smell the living, Percy said. But that's okay, right? Grover said, trembling next to Percy. Because we have a plan. Right, a plan, said Annabeth in the smallest voice her friends had ever heard from her. They moved towards the monster. The middle head snarled at him, then barked so loud that the demigods felt their eyeballs rattle. Damn boy, Naruto winced. You don't have to be that rude. What? Why? What did it say? Percy asked. I don't think there's a direct translation for that. It was Grover who answered. Percy took the big stick out of his backpack, which was just a bedpost he had broken off Krusty's Safari Deluxe floor model, and then he held it up. Hey, big fella, he called up. I bet they don't play with you much. Cerberus didn't look impressed. Instead, he just growled even louder. Good boy, Percy said weakly. He began to wave the stick in the air. The middle head followed its movements while the other two heads were trained on the demigod holding the stick. Fetch. Percy threw the stick into the gloom, a good solid throw. There was a loud kersploosh in the river Styx. Cerberus glared at him, unimpressed. His eyes were baleful and cold. This time, Cerberus made a different kind of growl. It was deeper down his three throats. 10 seconds, demigod. Choose the god to pray to. After that, get in my belly. We're dead. Grover winced. Oh no, Percy is about to be dog chow. Naruto said. Wait, Annabeth said. She started rifling through her pack. 5 seconds. Grover said. Do we run now? No. Annabeth has something up her sleeve. Naruto said. Annabeth produced a red rubber ball the size of a grapefruit. It still had the label, Waterland, Denver, Colorado. She raised the ball and marched straight up to Cerberus. Percy and Grover hid their eyes, fearing what would happen, while Naruto stood his ground. She shouted, see the ball. You want the ball, Cerberus? Sit. Hearing this, Percy and Grover opened their eyes only to have their mouths hang open. Even the giant Rottweiler in front of them was as shocked as they were. For the only shinobi in the group, well, he was grinning at her actions. All three of his heads cocked sideways. 6 nostrils dilated. Sit. Annabeth called again. What happened next shocked Percy and Grover even more. Cerberus licked his 3 sets of lips, shifted on his haunches, and sat, immediately crushing a dozen spirits who'd been passing underneath him in the EZ death line. The spirits made muffled hisses as they dissipated, like the air let out of tires. Good boy, Annabeth said, and then she threw Cerberus the ball. Cerberus caught it in his middle mouth. It was barely big enough for him to chew, and the other head started snapping at the middle, trying to get the new toy. Drop it, Annabeth ordered. Cerberus's head stopped fighting and looked at her. The ball was wedged between 2 of his teeth like a tiny piece of gum. He made a loud, scary whimper, and then dropped the ball, now slimy and bitten nearly in half, at Annabeth's feet. Good boy. She picked up the ball, ignoring the slobber all over it. She turned to her friends. Go now. EZ death line, it's faster. But Percy tried to protest. No time for that, Percy. Naruto dragged his friends towards the line. They inched slowly, moved forward. The giant dog seemed to notice this and growled. You got this. Naruto encouraged Annabeth as they passed. She smiled, then nodded. Stay. Annabeth ordered the monster. If you want the ball, stay. Cerberus whimpered, but he stayed where he was. Because of the daughter of Athena's efforts, the three boys managed to get through scot-free. Good boy, she said again. She held up the big red ball again. Although, this time she wasn't sure if she should reward him with it. She threw the ball anyway. The monster's left mouth immediately snatched it up, only to be attacked by the middle head, while the right head moaned in protest. While Cerberus was busy with his new toy, Annabeth ran to her friends who were waiting at the metal detector. How did you know the ball would work, but not the stick? Percy asked. Honestly, Percy, he found the stick insulting. Grover said. But how was that different from the ball? Percy asked again, confused. From obedience school, Annabeth explained, with tears falling down her eyes. When I was little, at my dad's house, we had a Doberman. Shush, it's okay. We all have our pasts, Naruto said, wiping her tears. Thanks, she managed a smile. Are we done with all the sugar? Grover said. Come on. The three boys ran through the EZ death line, when Cerberus moaned pitifully from all three lines. This made Annabeth stop. She turned to look at the Rottweiler, who was now turned 180 degrees and looking at them. Cerberus panted expectantly, the tiny red ball in pieces in a puddle of drool at its feet. Good boy, Annabeth said, but her voice sounded melancholy and uncertain. The monster's head turned sideways, as if worried about her. Naruto saw this and went back to her. He placed a hand on Annabeth's shoulder. You don't want to leave him alone, huh? Naruto said. Here. Naruto raised his hands into a hand sign. In a puff of smoke, another Naruto appeared beside the original. With a half-ram seal, the other Naruto transformed into a perfect copy of Annabeth. Annabeth's expression brightened up, and hugged Naruto. Thanks. Come on. Let's go. Grover and Percy pushed through the metal detector, followed closely by Naruto and Annabeth. The metal detector screamed and set off flashing red lights. Unauthorized possessions. Magic detected. Cerberus started to bark, but was still focused on his new playmate. They burst through the EZ death gate, which started even more alarms blaring, and raced into the underworld. A few minutes later, they were hiding, out of breath, in the rotten trunk of an immense black tree as security ghouls scuttled past them, yelling for backup from the Furies. So, what have we learned today? Grover asked in jest. To wing it, Naruto tried. That three-headed dogs prefer red rubber balls over sticks. Percy tried as well. No. Grover shook his head at both answers. We've learned that Percy's plans really bite. But, Annabeth and I had the same idea. Percy protested. Well, it would work for other dogs, I guess. Naruto offered. Hey, I thought you were on my side. Percy said. As the three boys were joking around, Annabeth was smiling as the joyful barks of Cerberus playing with his new friend. Fields of Asphodel. It's like a giant football field. Percy commented. More like a concert. Annabeth corrected him. Yeah, but someone died backstage or something. Naruto added. Those were the ways our group of demigods described this place. The black grass they were walking on had been trampled by eons of dead feet. A warm, moist wind blew like the breath of a swamp. Black trees, Grover said, were poplars, grew in clumps here and there. The demigods were now walking among the crowds of spirits trying to blend in, while keeping an eye out for security ghouls looking for them. All the spirits they passed by all look angry or confused. Some tried to talk to them, the voice that came out was chattering, something like bats twittering. When they realize you can't understand them, they frown and walk away. They concluded that ghosts weren't scary at all, they were just sad. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if the dead of the elemental nations came to this same place. It was unlikely, but he still held hope that he would see his parents somewhere here. He kept his eyes open just in case. They crept along, following the line of new arrivals that snaked from the main gates toward a black-tented pavilion with a banner that read, Judgments for Elysium and Eternal Damnation. Welcome, newly deceased. Out the back of the tent came two much smaller lines. The left line, which was flanked by security ghouls, led to the Fields of Punishment. It glowed and smoked in the distance. The fields were a vast, cracked wasteland with rivers of lava and minefields and miles of barbed wire separating the different torture areas. Even from afar, you could see the different forms of torture the spirits were forced to endure for eternity. The right line was by far much better. This one led towards a small valley surrounded by walls, a gated community. This seemed, no, it is the only happy place in the underworld. Beyond the security gate were neighborhoods of beautiful houses from every time period in history, Roman villas and medieval castles and Victorian mansions. Silver and gold flowers bloomed on the lawns. The grass rippled in rainbow colors. From where the demigods were standing, they could hear laughter and smell barbecue cooking. It was Elysium. In the middle of that valley was a glittering blue lake, with 3 small islands like a vacation resort in the Bahamas. The Isles of the Blessed, for people who had chosen to be reborn 3 times, and 3 times achieved Elysium. That's what it's all about, Annabeth said. That's the place for heroes. Naruto nodded. That's what we're all gunning for. You can say that again. Percy said. Grover just remained silent. After that, the demigods left the Judgment Pavilion and moved deeper into the fields of Asphodel. It got darker. The colors faded from their clothes. The crowds of chattering spirits began to thin. As Naruto was looking at more of the spirits, one in particular caught his attention. This spirit was a girl who looked like she was of African American descent. She had curly brown hair hidden under her cloak. Unlike the other spirits, this one didn't look angry or confused, just sad. The two looked at each other in the eye, but the girl didn't pay Naruto any attention. Naruto, though, got curious and turned back for another look. After a few miles of walking, the familiar screech could be heard in the distance. Looming on the horizon was a palace of glittering black obsidian. Above the parapet swirled 3 dark bat-like creatures, the Furies, who seemed to be waiting for them. I guess it's too late to turn back now, huh? Grover said. We'll be okay. Percy tried to say with confidence. Maybe we should search some of the other places first, Grover suggested. Like Elysium, for instance. I doubt we will find the lightning bolt in Elysium, Grover. Naruto said. I don't think it's in the palace either. I'm sure though that we would get answers there. Yeah, goat boy. Annabeth said, grabbing his arm. We're not going back after coming this far. Grover yelped. His sneakers sprouted wings and his legs shot forward, pulling him away from Annabeth. He landed flat on his back in the grass. Grover, Annabeth chided. Stop messing around. But I didn't. He yelped again. His shoes were flapping like crazy now. They levitated off the ground and started dragging him away from his friends. Maya, he yelled, but the magic word seemed to have no effect. Maya, already. 911. Help. Percy got over being stunned and was about to act, but was too late. Naruto with his amazing reflexes was able to jump and grab onto Grover, but was dragged like a bobsled. Percy and Annabeth just ran after them. Annabeth shouted, untie the shoes. Grover tried to sit up, but he couldn't get close to the laces. The two were on his tail trying to keep up with Naruto and Grover. They all thought Grover would fly straight into Hades' palace, but he did the unthinkable. He veered for a sharp right turn and dragged both boys in the opposite direction. The slope got steeper. Grover picked up speed, pulling Naruto with him. Annabeth and Percy had to sprint to keep up. The cavern walls narrowed on either side. There was no more black grass or trees now, just rock underfoot, and the dim light of the stalactites above. Grover, Percy yelled, my voice echoing. Hold on to something. What? He yelled back. I can't hold on anymore. Oof. Naruto's face got scratched by the small rocks which, adding to his already tired arms, made him release his grip. Ow. Grover was trying to grab at gravel, but there was nothing big enough to slow him down. The tunnel got darker and colder. The hairs on the demigod's arms bristled. It made him think of dark and evil thoughts. The tunnel widened into a huge dark cavern, and in the middle was a chasm the size of a city block. The demigods saw this and stopped dead in their tracks. That's, Percy stuttered. Yeah, the place in your dreams. Annabeth replied. Grover's yelling broke the two out of his stupor. He was already in the chasm. The two ran towards him. Luckily, his hooves saved him. He managed to hug a huge rock and use it as an anchor. The shoes kept tugging themselves free from his hooves and flew into the chasm. The problem is Grover was already slipping, and his friends were too far to reach him. Before they even got to him, the satyr's arms gave in and fell into the chasm. No. The two demigods shouted. Help. Grover shouted to his friends. From out of nowhere, Naruto came running in and jumped into the chase with a bunch of puffs on his trail. The original Naruto was able to grab onto Grover's ankles with a bunch of clones grabbing one another's ankles. I got you. Naruto said. Way to go, Naruto. Percy and Annabeth shouted from up top. Get me up. Get me up. Grover panicked. Guys. Naruto shouted to his clones. Yes sir. All clones shouted and shot them, slingshot style, back up to their friends. Everyone collapsed, exhausted, on the obsidian gravel. Their limbs felt like lead. Percy didn't notice this, but his backpack felt heavier all of a sudden. Grover and Naruto were scratched up pretty bad from the ride the winged shoes gave them. Grover's eyes had gone slit pupil due to his fear. I don't know how, the satyr panted. I didn't. Wait, Percy could hear a deep whisper in the darkness. Listen. Another few seconds, and Annabeth said, Percy, this place. What are you? Naruto whispered. Shush. I stood. The sound was getting louder, a muttering, evil voice from far, far below. It was coming from the pit. Grover sat up. What's that noise? Annabeth heard it too, now. I could see it in her eyes. This is the entrance to Tartarus, Naruto agreed. This made the quest a whole lot more complicated. Percy uncapped Anaclusmos. The bronze sword expanded, gleaming in the darkness, and the evil voice seemed to falter, just for a moment, before resuming its chant. Percy could almost make out words now, ancient words, older even than Greek. As if it was magic, Percy said. We have to get out of here. Annabeth said. Naruto helped Grover up, and slung his arm over his shoulder to help him walk. Come on, Grover, he said. Percy was lagging behind the group. It seemed like his backpack weighed a ton. That all changed when the voice behind them got louder and angrier. That made the group break into a run to get out of the hall faster. Naruto even carried the satyr on his shoulders to move faster. Just then, a cold wind pulled at their backs as if the pit behind them was inhaling. For a terrifying moment, the demigods were losing their footing on the gravel. Fortunately, due to Naruto's quick thinking, 2 clones scooped up Percy and Annabeth, and the 3 Naruto sprinted out of the hall with chakra-boosted steps. When they finally reached the top of the tunnel where the cavern widened out to the fields of Asphodel, the wind died, and a wail of outrage echoed from the tunnel they came from. Apparently, something or someone wasn't happy that they got away. That was close. Naruto panted as he lay collapsed on the ground with his friends. What was that? Grover asked. One of Hades' pets. I doubt that. The older blonde answered. You don't mean, Annabeth said. The very idea of who was in the pit terrified the group. Even Naruto, who had encountered terrifying shinobi back in the elemental nations, was scared to bits. This was definitely on a whole other level than anything he faced before. They decided not to talk about it anymore, especially, not now that they're one room across the pit of Tartarus. Hades' palace seemingly was the better place to be in right now, unless you wanted to walk around the fields of Asphodel for eternity. Percy capped his sword, put the pen away. Let's keep going, he told his friend, and then turned to Grover to ask. Can you walk? The satyr tried to swallow some saliva, though his mouth was dry. Yeah, sure. I never liked those shoes, anyway. Well then, let's go. Naruto said, getting nods from his friends. Hades' palace. The Furies circled the parapets, high in the gloom. The outer walls of the fortress glittered black, and the 2-story tall bronze gates stood wide open. Engraved on the gates were scenes of death. Some were from modern times, an atomic bomb exploding over a city, a trench filled with gas mask-wearing soldiers, a line of African famine victims waiting with empty bowls, but all of them looked as if they'd been etched into the bronze thousands of years ago. I wonder if these already happened. Naruto wondered aloud. Maybe they're prophecies, Percy added. Who knows? Grover said. They headed inside the courtyard. It contained the strangest garden the demigods had ever seen. Multicolored mushrooms, poisonous shrubs, and weird luminous plants grew without sunlight. Precious jewels made up for the lack of flowers, piles of rubies as big as my fist, clumps of raw diamonds. Standing here and there like frozen party guests were Medusa's garden statues, petrified children, satyrs, and centaurs, all smiling grotesquely. In the center of the garden was an orchard of pomegranate trees, their orange blooms neon bright in the dark. The garden of Persephone, Annabeth said. Keep walking. So, she's a fan of Medusa's works. Naruto said. Too bad we took her out. She'll reform eventually. Annabeth said. Grover. No. Percy pulled Grover away. The satyr was about to eat some of the pomegranates from the tree. The tart smell from the fruit was overwhelming him. But I'm hungry, the satyr complained. You can't, Grover. Naruto explained. Unless you want to live here. Yeah, Grover, Percy said. Come on. The group walked up the steps of the palace, between black columns, through a black marble portico, and into the Hades residence. The entry hall had a polished bronze floor, which seemed to boil in the reflected torchlight. There was no ceiling, just the cavern roof, far above. Every side doorway was guarded by a skeleton in military gear. Some wore Greek armor, some British redcoat uniforms, some camouflage with tattered American flags on the shoulders. They carried spears or muskets or M16s. None of the skeletons bothered them, but the hollow eye sockets followed them as they walked down the hall, toward the big set of doors at the opposite end. 2 U.S. Marine skeletons guarded the doors. They grinned down at them, rocket-propelled grenade launchers held across their chests. You know, I bet Hades doesn't have trouble with door-to-door salesmen. Grover joked. Or solicitors, Naruto added. Or preachers, Percy added. Percy's backpack weighed a ton now, but he remained quiet and decided to ignore it. He was psyching himself up to face the god of the underworld. You ready, Percy? Naruto asked. Will you take no for an answer? Percy said, earning a round of half-hearted laughter from his friends. Well, guys, I said. I suppose we should, knock. A hot wind blew down the corridor, and the doors swung open. The guards stepped aside. I guess that means entrez-vous, Annabeth said. The demigods entered the giant hall. At the end of the hall were 2 big thrones, one of which was empty. The empty throne was shaped like a black flower, gilded with gold, Persephone's throne. The other was made up of fused human bones. Sitting on it was Hades, himself. He was at least 10 feet tall, for one thing, and dressed in black silk robes and a crown of braided gold. His skin was albino white, his hair shoulder length and jet black. He wasn't bulked up like Ares, but he radiated power. He lounged on his throne of fused human bones, looking lithe, graceful, and dangerous as a panther. You are brave to come here, son of Poseidon, he said in an oily voice. After what you have done to me, very brave indeed. Or perhaps you are simply very foolish. Probably, more foolish. It's Percy we're talking about. Naruto thought. He would have said it aloud, but it wasn't the time to joke. Numbness crept up to Percy's legs, but he fought the feeling and said, Lord and Uncle, I come with 2 requests. Hades raised an eyebrow. He sat forward in his throne. Shadowy faces appeared in the folds of his black robes, faces of torment, as if the garment were stitched of trapped souls from the fields of punishment, trying to get out. I wonder how bad you should be to end up in Hades' underwear. The ADD part of Percy and Naruto thought. Only 2 requests, Hades said. Arrogant child. As if you have not already taken enough. Speak, then. It amuses me not to strike you dead yet. Percy didn't know what to say. Annabeth cleared her throat. She prodded her finger on the son of Poseidon's back. Lord Hades, Percy said. Look, sir, there can't be a war among the gods. It would be bad. Really bad, Grover added helpfully. Return Zeus's master bolt to me, Percy added, please, sir. Let me carry it to Olympus. Hades' eyes grew dangerously bright. You dare keep up this pretense, after what you have done? Percy glanced back to his friends. The look of bewilderment was evident on their faces. They too were hearing this for the first time. Uncle, Percy said. You keep saying, after what you've done. What exactly have I done? There was a strong tremor that could have been felt all the way up in Los Angeles. Debris fell from the cavern ceiling. Doors burst open all along the walls, and skeletal warriors marched in, hundreds of them, from every time period and nation in Western civilization. They lined the perimeter of the room, blocking the exits. A huge tremor shook the earth, destroying buildings everywhere and causing fires to erupt from the damage. Many people scrambled from the day-to-day lives after they felt the wrath of the god of the underworld. Deep down below the earth, there was a confrontation between the said god and 3 demigods with their satyr protector. Do you think I want war, godling? The Lord of the Dead bellowed. Well, the soldiers behind us tell a different story. The blonde shinobi said, earning a hit on the shoulder from Annabeth. Stay out of this, son of Artemis. Hades said. This is no time for jokes. The name's Naruto, by the way. Naruto introduced himself. Yes, I have heard of you and your mother's fiasco. Hades said. Frankly, I would like to have your soul once you die, but I'm afraid your soul goes back to the Shinigami of your world. I don't suppose my parents. Hades shook his head. They're not here. Annabeth interjected. The lightning bolt. Oh yeah, Percy remembered. A war between the gods would expand your kingdom, right? A typical thing for my brothers to say. Perhaps you didn't see the sprawl of souls on your way here. Do you think I need more subjects? Was all the four could say. Do you have any idea how much my kingdom has swollen in the past century? How many subdivisions I had to open? The four couldn't speak. More security ghouls. Hades moaned. Traffic problems at the Judgment Pavilion. Double overtime for the staff. I used to be a rich god. I control all the precious metals under the earth. But my expenses. Not to mention Charon wants a pay raise. Naruto said. Don't even get me started on him. He yelled at the blonde. He's been begging me for that ever since he discovered Italian suits. These problems everywhere, I have to handle myself. The commute time myself is enough to drive me insane. And the dead don't stop coming. No demigod, I did not ask for this war. But you, Percy was about to say, but Naruto stopped him. The son of Poseidon looked at him and the blonde shook his head. Hades rose from his throne. From the perspective of the demigods, he was as tall as a football goalpost. You and your father may fool Zeus, boy, but you won't fool me. I see your plan. What plan? Percy asked. You were the thief on the winter solstice, Hades accused. Your father thought he could keep you as his little secret. He directed you into the throne room on Olympus, took the master bolt and my helm. Had I not sent my fury to discover you at Yancy Academy, Poseidon might have succeeded in hiding his scheme to start a war. But now you have been forced into the open. You will be exposed as Poseidon's thief, and I will have my helm back. Wait a minute, Lord Hades, Annabeth said. Your helm is missing too. Do not play innocent with me, girl. You, the satyr and that boy have been helping this hero come here to threaten me in Poseidon's name, no doubt to bring me an ultimatum. Does Poseidon think I can be blackmailed into supporting him? Wait just a darn minute. Naruto said, his eyes flickering from blue to red. Percy hasn't even been to Olympus. Why are you blaming it on him? Silence. Hades yelled at the blonde. I am not afraid of your power, boy. You are just a weapon brought into this world by your mother, no doubt to aid her father in the war. Those Olympians have the gall to send someone to threaten me here in abode when no one would offer me the slightest justice, the slightest help. It was bad enough I had to keep the word of my greatest weapon from leaking out. So, I searched for you myself, and when it was clear you were coming to my domain to deliver your little threat, I did not try to stop you. Percy, Annabeth and Grover recoiled at Hades' mention of Naruto's power. Naruto, Annabeth tried to ask. I'm sorry Annabeth, Percy, Grover. I have been dodging this topic for a long time now, but this isn't the time for that. I promise I will tell you when I'm ready. Naruto apologized. The blonde turned to the god of the dead. Oh please, Lord Hades. What do you call the Minotaur, Echidna and the Chimera? Don't talk to me in that tone, boy. You are lucky that I still need my helm from you. If not, I would have vaporized you on the spot. Hades snarled. Return my helm now, or I will stop death. That is my counter-proposal. Or better yet, I will open the earth and have the dead pour back out into the surface world. And you Percy Jackson, your skeleton will lead the armies of the dead out. The skeletal soldiers stepped forward cocking the guns and brandishing their swords and shields. It was Percy's turn to get mad this time. You're as bad as Zeus. You think I stole from you even I haven't been to Olympus yet. Then, you send your furies and monster after me. Monsters. To answer your question, Naruto Uzumaki, I had nothing to do with them. I didn't want to give a swift death. I wanted you brought before me alive so I could subject you to every form of torture available in the fields of punishment. Why do you think I let you into my kingdom so easily? Easily. There were security ghouls looking for us. Hades ignored him. Return my helm. Now. I don't have your helm. I came here to get the master bolt from you. Or that was the plan at least. Which is already in your possession. Hades shouted. You came here with it, fool, thinking you could threaten me. But I didn't. Open your pack, then. A horrible feeling struck Percy. The weight on my backpack, on our way here, it can't be. Percy, what are you talking about? Grover said. Percy slung off his backpack and unzipped it. Inside it was the 2-foot-long metallic cylinder, spiked on both ends, humming with energy. Percy, Annabeth said. How? You mean, you already felt this happening on the way here? Naruto asked. I don't know. I don't understand it either. I didn't think it was important at that time. I thought you guys were playing pranks. Percy explained. Well, at least he tried to. We weren't, Percy. You should have said something. Naruto scolded. All you heroes are the same. Hades said. Your pride makes you foolish, thinking you could bring such a weapon before me. I did not ask for Zeus's master bolt, but since it is here, you will yield it to me. I am sure it will make an excellent bargaining tool. And now, my helm. Where is it? Lord Hades, wait, Percy said. This is all a mistake. A mistake, Hades roared. The skeleton warriors behind them began to take aim. From somewhere up above, there was a familiar fluttering of leathery wings. The Furies swooped down to perch on top of their master's throne. One of them, the one Naruto and Percy recognized as Mrs. Dodds, grinned eagerly and flicked her whip. Hades shook his head. There is no mistake, Percy Jackson. I know why you come here bearing the weapon of Zeus. Hades flicked his wrist, and loosened a ball of golden fire from his palm. The flames exploded, revealing the Sally Jackson frozen at the moment the Minotaur began to squeeze her to death. Mom. Aunt Sally. Naruto and Percy said in unison. Memories of the battle they had with Pasiphae's son resurfaced on their minds. Annabeth and Grover each placed a hand on each of their shoulders respectively. Yes, Hades said with satisfaction. I took her. I knew that you would come to bargain with me eventually. Return my weapon, and perhaps I will let her go. Displease me, and she will stay here forever. Percy placed his hands in his pockets and held the pearls in his palms. These could save my mom. He thought. Ah, the pearls, Hades said. Yes, my brother and his little tricks. Bring them forth. Percy brought out the pearls and looked at them in his hand. Only 4, Hades chastised. You do realize that each pearl only protects a single person. Try to take your mother then, demigod. Which of your friends will you sacrifice for her? Or give me the backpack and accept my terms? Percy looked at his friends, their faces grim. We were tricked, Percy said. Set up by someone. Yes, but why? Annabeth asked. Unless, the voice in the pit. Naruto placed a hand on Annabeth's shoulder. No, not here. Not when we are so close to the pit. Percy, the backpack. Grover brought something up. It was given by Ares. The 4 said together. But when? Percy asked. Probably when he gave you the backpack. Naruto suggested. Works like our pens somehow, but when we are close to the pit. Are you demigods, done? Hades asked. Let the boy decide. Percy, you can't give him the bolt. Grover said. I know that. Percy answered. Use the last pearl on you, Mom. Grover suggested. Leave me here. Percy was deep in thought. All he did was shake his head. I'm a satyr. Grover argued. He can torture me all he wants till I die, but he won't have me forever. I'll reincarnate as a flower or something. No. Annabeth argued back. You 3 go. Grover, you have to get out of here safely, and protect Percy so you could get your searcher's license. Get out of here so you could live your dream. No way. I would still have failed if you were left down here. Grover said. I'm staying. Think again, goat boy. Annabeth said. Ow. The 2 exclaimed. Naruto had hit them in the head. What did you do that for? You do realize that I was the one who forced myself into this quest despite Chiron's warnings. And besides, I promised the old centaur I would keep an eye on you. He would kill me if any one of you were to die here. Naruto explained his side. No. The 2 shot down the older blonde's idea, causing him to sigh. The arguing continued. This time the blonde didn't even try to jump in with them. You shall fail to save what matters most in the end. Percy murmured. Naruto smiled. He had picked up the same idea as Percy. Guys, stop. Percy shouted to get the attention of the 2 who were arguing. I know what to do. Percy turned to his mother. I'm sorry. I'll find another way. What? Annabeth and Grover said. Even Hades didn't understand what was happening. The smug look on his face disappeared instantly. Godling. All he could do was watch as the son of Poseidon handed each of his friends a pearl. When he was done, Percy turned to Hades. I'll find your helm, uncle. I'll return it. And don't forget about Charon's pay raise. Do not defy, Hades yelled. Oh. And it wouldn't hurt to play with Cerberus once in a while. Annabeth chimed in. Percy Jackson, you will not. Guys now. Percy shouted. Each of them smashed a pearl at their feet. Nothing happened. Destroy them. Hades shouted with full rage. The skeleton warriors charged. The ones with guns clicked their weapons at full automatic. The Furies threw their flaming whips at them. Naruto began to build power, while the three closed their eyes to brace themselves. Just then, green mist covered the demigods, protecting them from the attacks, and a milky white sphere encased them all. The sphere floated up through the walls of the caverns. The demigod closed their eyes to brace themselves as they were going to hit the wall. Hades yelled in rage and threw curses as he watched the demigods escaping. Another earthquake shook his domain. Los Angeles was not having a peaceful night. Follow them to the SUFACE world. Hades ordered the Furies. Santa Monica Bay. The bubbles they were in continued to go up higher even after they hit the underworld ceiling. When the demigods opened their eyes, the bubbles blocked broke through surface of the bay. They even knocked a surfer off his board. Percy grabbed Grover to drag him over to a life buoy. Naruto did the same to Annabeth. A curious great white shark was circling around them. Beat it, Percy said, causing the shark to turn and race away. The surfer dude raced away screaming about bad mushrooms or something. I'm so going to kill Ares, Percy said. But he's a god, Percy. Annabeth said. Don't worry, I'll have his back on this, Naruto said. Guys, don't tell me it's, Grover said. Yes, it's the 21st already, Percy said. Naruto looked over to the city. Los Angeles was on fire, plumes of smoke were rising from neighborhoods all over the city. Apparently, Hades' outburst a while back affected the mortal world. We have to get to Olympus now, Annabeth said. It's the solstice. We have to return the lightning bolt. The sound of motor cut off the conversation. A Coast Guard boat was approaching them to pick him up, but they were too busy to keep them for long or to wonder why four kids were in street clothes got to the middle of the bay. Their radio was jammed with distress calls. The kids from the bay were the least of their worries. The demigods were dropped off at Santa Monica Pier with towels wrapped around them and water bottles the Redeemer Junior Coast Guard plastered around it. After drying off for a bit, they stumbled on the beach, watching the city burn against a beautiful sunrise. It was so refreshing to see this, especially after coming from the underworld and all. I can't believe our little theory was right, Annabeth said. I was hoping we were when we made it to the underworld, but the prophecy came true, Percy said. We were all thinking that Hades was the culprit, Percy said. I think you mean hoping, Naruto corrected. I can't help but agree, Grover commented. But who would be so sneaky? A big familiar man in a black leather duster cut him off. Hey kids, you were supposed to be dead. You tricked me, Percy yelled. You stole the helm and the master bolt. Ares gave out a wide grin. Well now, I didn't steal them personally. As you know, we gods can't steal each other's symbol of power. It's a big no-no, but you're not the only heroes who can run errands. Who did you use? Annabeth gritted her teeth. Was it Clarice? Or maybe another one of you children? Doesn't matter. Ares shrugged. Point is, kids, you're impeding the war effort. See, you were supposed to die in the underworld. Then old Seaweed will be mad at Hades for killing you. Corpse Breath will have Zeus Master Bolt, so Zeus'll be mad at him. And Hades will be looking for this. He pulled out a ski cap, the kind worn by bank robbers, and placed it on the handlebars of his bike. Immediately, the cap transformed into a bronze war helmet. The Helm of Darkness. Grover gasped. Exactly, Ares said. Now where was I? Oh yeah, Hades will be mad at both Zeus and Poseidon because he doesn't know who took this. Pretty soon, there'll be a three-way slugfest. But they're your family, Annabeth protested. That's the best kind of war. Ares shrugged. Always the bloodiest. There's nothing like watching your relatives fight. Besides, it would knock those three down a peg. You gave us the backpack in Denver, Percy said. It was in there the whole time. Well, yes and no, Ares said. It's too complicated for your little mortal brain to follow. Basically, the backpack is the Master Bolt sheath, just morphed a little. The bolt is connected to it, kinda like that sword you got. It always returns to your pocket, right? Percy didn't react. Anyway, I tinkered with the magic a little, so the bolt would only return to its sheath once you puncture in the underworld. The closer you get to Hades, bingo, you got mail. If you died along the way, no loss. I still had the weapon. The bolt was already in the bag when we were getting sucked in the pit, right Percy? Naruto asked the son of Poseidon. Percy nodded. What if we got sucked in that pit? Then, you would have lost the weapon. Ares twitched. Yeah, you could have also kept the weapon to yourself, Annabeth added. Why send it to Hades? Ares said nothing for a few seconds. It was like he was in a trance, waiting for instructions from deep inside his head. Fire power, why didn't I? He mumbled. It's like he's in some kind of genjutsu. Naruto commented. The others gulped. This time, Ares' face cleared. If you guys were sucked in that pit, Zeus still didn't have the weapon, there'll still be a war. And sending it to Hades. Keeping the bolt for myself was just trouble. Besides, it was better to have you punks caught red-handed holding the bolt. Hey, Naruto smirked. You didn't plan for us to get sucked in the pit, did you? Of course I planned it. Ares roared, smoke drifting from his sunglasses as if they were catching fire. I don't think so. Percy shook his head. Someone else was sent to steal the bolt and the helm. Then Zeus sent you along with the others to look for his weapon. You caught the thief, but you didn't turn him over to Zeus. Something convinced you to let him go. You kept the weapons until someone else could make the delivery. I am the god of war. I take orders from no one. I don't have dreams. Ares got angrier. Naruto smirked even wider. We didn't say anything about dreams. Ares' mouth hung wide open. He cleared his throat to regain his composure and smirked himself. Let's get back to the problem at hand, punks. Old Seaweed's kid is still alive. I can't have you return the bolt to Olympus. You might just get those idiots up there to listen to you. So, naturally, I have to kill you myself. Nothing personal, Ares said. Then again, maybe this is personal. Especially for you. He pointed to Naruto. Me? The blonde asked. Yes, you. Ares answered. Anything to piss off old Artie. The god of war snapped his fingers. Just then, the sand beneath the demigod's feet exploded. A huge boar uglier than one hung over cabin 7's door. Don't tell Clarice I said that. Fortunately, the blonde shinobi was able to create a clone and pull his friends out of the way. A few feet away, the demigods and the two Narutos stood eyeing the boar. The said boar pawed the sand beneath its hooves, ready to charge. Hiding behind your overgrown pork chop, Ares. Naruto taunted. Yeah. Percy agreed. If you want to kill me, fight me yourself. It would be a waste of energy. The god of war shrugged. You're not at my level. Ares snapped his fingers and the boar charged. Percy and Naruto stepped forward to the surf. No guys. Run. Annabeth warned the two. As the boar rushed, the two Percy sidestepped the boar and uncapped his pen. Naruto, on the other hand, threw his pen in the air and backflipped to avoid the tusks and kicked pen at its butt, and it flew toward the god of war. The pen he kicked flew towards the god of war, while it changed into his three-pronged kunai. He easily caught the weapon in his hand. You have to do better than. He stopped what he was saying when he felt ichor drip from the side of his face. How? Right behind him, the other three-pronged kunai dug itself in the sand. Why you? Ares roared. At the same time as the previous events. Percy, with his pen now uncapped and riptide in his hands, slashed upwards, severing the boar's right tusk in the process. This disoriented the huge animal. At the same moment, Naruto, who was in the air, landed on the animal, then brought out a kunai, and drove it to the back of the animal. The boar squealed in pain, but not for long as the son of Poseidon's sword sliced through its tusk. In the background, the god of war roared in anger. I will turn you into a. Naruto didn't let him finish. A tapeworm? He asked. A mutt, taking the easy way out a wee. Flames were dancing on his shades. You're definitely dead meat. Are we talking or are we fighting? Naruto taunted. Or maybe you're going to hide behind another pig. Naruto, Percy, don't do it. He's a god. Annabeth shouted. God. He's a coward. Do you have my back, Naruto? Percy asked. All the way. Naruto said. Let's go. Wait. How about some good luck? Annabeth said when an explosion permeated the air from where Ares was. You go, Percy. Naruto offered. I'll hold him off. Will you be okay? Percy asked. Just don't take too long. Naruto said. Naruto went on to take on Ares and Percy went to Annabeth to receive the charms. What do you have in mind? Percy asked as the sound of steel clashing sounded behind them. Annabeth took off her necklace containing her 5 years' worth of beads and her father's college ring and tied it Percy's neck. Reconciliation, she said. Athena and Poseidon together. I feel bad, though, I don't have anything for Naruto. Oh here. Grover took out a flattened tin can. It's my lucky tin can. Give this to Naruto, later. We satyrs stand behind you. Percy's face began to feel warm. Gee, thanks guys. Another explosion came from Naruto's battle with Ares. Naruto panted as stood his ground in front of Ares, the fatigue from the battle beginning to show. Ares cackled a sort of a crazy laugh. Is that all you got, punk? I've been fighting for all of eternity. My strength is unlimited and I can't die. What have you got? Naruto was about to answer when Percy shouted, "You okay?" He asked as he ran to Naruto's side. I've been through worse, Naruto said in between pants. Here, take this. Percy handed Grover's can. A good luck charm from our satyr friend. Naruto smiled as he placed the can in his pouch. Hey Ares, you know what we got? Naruto said. We got our friends with us. Yes, yes. They're going to die after you cocky punks. Ares said as he cleaved downward with a two-handed great sword. Percy was catapulted into the air with the aid of the water around him, while Naruto sidestepped the blade, slid under the god of war, and delivered a kick to Ares' stomach, knocking him to the air. 4 clones appeared in the air, and together was about to stab the god of war while in the air. Unfortunately, Ares was able to twist in the air and slash through the 4 clones. Percy was able to block the strike, but he was knocked back down to the ground. Ares landed on the ground with flair. He grinned. Not bad, punks. He slashed again, forcing the duo to jump back to dry land. Percy tried to get back into the water, but Ares knew what he wanted, so he pressed harder for them to get as far from the water as possible. Naruto and Percy defended themselves as they exchanged swipes and slashes with their swords, and kunai for the case of Naruto, and tried their best to get back to the water. The two tried to get in closer to Ares since the both of them had the shorter blades. Percy went in for a thrust, but Ares anticipated that. He knocked Riptide out of his hands and kicked him in the chest. He went airborne for about 20, or maybe 30 feet, knocking Naruto back, who was charging right behind Percy. Percy. Naruto. Cops. Annabeth warned. To be continued. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.